So apparently being accused of assault, running a cult, and sending people used condoms isn't enough to get you blacklisted in Hollywood, because Disney just dropped Tron 3 with Jared Leto as the main character. And honestly, the movie is doing fine. It opened at number 1, but still made less than expected considering Disney threw millions into it. But the thing is, this isn't really about Tron. It's about how Hollywood keeps proving that money matters way more than morals. Like, this entire industry runs on this weird balance between accountability and profit always wins. We've seen it over and over. Whenever someone powerful does something horrible, studios panic. They don't want to deal with lawsuits, PR nightmares, or losing money. So instead of holding anyone accountable, they just look away. And that's it. The Me Too movement exposed how deep this problem is, but even now, people inside the industry say almost nothing has changed. Of course, they're more aware of the misconduct, but they're still terrified to speak out because Hollywood loves protecting its cash cows. And Jared Leto is one of the biggest examples of that. Guys, we have a new mic position here, and I also have my glasses so I can see you better now. Let me know if you like them, and also let me know if you like this position for the mic better than the other one, which is just me holding the mic. So let's talk about Jared, because somehow this man has convinced Hollywood that being a narcissist is the same thing as being a method actor. Let's start from the beginning, because this guy loves suffering for his art. For Dallas Buyers Club, he lost 30 pounds and apparently made everyone on set treat him like a woman because he was playing a trans character. For Chapter 27, where he played John Lennon's killer, he gained almost 70 pounds and ended up with gout so bad that he had to use a wheelchair on set. Like, sir, nobody asked you to do that. But things really started getting weird with Suicide Squad, because that's when he decided to fully become the Joker. And by fully, I mean sending his co-workers used condoms, a dead rat, and anal beads. And he called it method acting, which, no, method acting is about understanding your character's psychology, not being an asshole and harassing your castmates.
Now, how about the gifts you gave everyone? Yeah. Rats, bullets, a hog. Where did that come from?
Don't forget the anal beads.
Who did you send anal beads to?
The used condoms.
You did not.
Yeah. It's a family show, but we can educate people here. At least they were used.
Who did you send used condoms to?
Oh, everybody.
We get it, Jared. You wanted to go into the whole Joker's mind, but the Joker also blew up a hospital full of babies in the comics. So, are you gonna do that too?
The Joker, he did some bad things, Jared Leto did. He gave some really horrific gifts. He had a henchman who would come into the rehearsal room, and the henchman came in with a dead pig and plopped it on the table. And then he walked out. And that was our introduction into Jared Leto. You talk about commitment, and then he sends Margot Robbie a black rat. It was still alive in a box. She screamed, and then she kept it.
And the best part, he later went on SiriusXM and denied ever doing those things, even though he had already bragged about them before.
What exactly did people get wrong about the Joker?
I mean, I just think that there were some things, that were mentioned about like gifts and the fact that I was giving used condoms to people, which was not true.
We can say that right now. That is not true.
It was not true.
Then during Morbius, he apparently decided that even going to the bathroom was part of his process. He was limping around set so dramatically that it literally took him 45 minutes just to go pee, until the crew literally had enough and had to buy him a wheelchair so they could push him to the bathroom faster. And that's not method acting, that's just being a pain in the ass. Because here's the thing, you can be a method actor and still have respect for the people around you. So what Jared Leto is doing isn't about acting, it's about control, it's about seeing how far he can get away with it. And that I can do whatever I want attitude doesn't just stop on movie sets. It spills all over his music career too. While most bands have fan clubs, Jared basically built himself a religion. His band Face called themselves the Echelon, which, by the way, is a military term for groups that fall into formation behind a leader. So, kind of fit in. And this wasn't just some casual fandom. These were people following the band around the world, getting tattoos, buying merch that literally said, yes, this is a cult, and defending him like he was the second coming. Around 2015, Jared decided to make this official with something called Camp Mars. So this is like a spiritual retreat with his most devoted fans. So they would do stuff like camping, doing yoga, meditating, and of course, spend time with Jared. So packages range from basic tents to VIP packages with alone time with Jared. But that wasn't enough, apparently, because years later, he created Mars Island, a 3-day retreat on a private island in Croatia. And the cheapest package was about $1,700, and it went all the way to $7,000. And if you wanted the Phoenix package, that was like the top tier, you had to pay an undisclosed amount. And yes, reportedly this included private time with Jared. Each morning started with yoga and water activities, and at night, hundreds of mostly young women dressed in white would just sit in the sand in a circle and watch Jared, also in white, perform. So at that point, this wasn't like a concert anymore. This was a worship, because this whole thing looks like a mix of Coachella with a cult retreat. And if that wasn't already creepy enough, there have been allegations against him going back to almost 2 decades. I'm sorry I have my hand like this. It's just my cat is sitting on my lap and I just don't want to interrupt her. So I'm just like this because she's sleeping. As early as 2005, reports started circulating about Jared pursuing teenage models, literally waiting for them outside of their shoots and sending constant texts. So there are old articles and screenshots saying that he was texting 16 and 17-year-old girls, inviting them to his shows. And then in 2013, multiple women started sharing online stories accusing him of sexual assault. That message board was eventually deleted, and Jared has never publicly addressed it. Not a denial, not an apology, just silence. And yet, his career hasn't slowed down at all. He's still landing major roles, working with the massive studios, and is now starring in a Disney movie. And what's honestly most disturbing about all of this is just how casual he talks about it. Like, he'll just joke about his intense acting methods in interviews, like he's just talking about the weather. And the worst part is that he's not even the only one. Hollywood's full of people who have done awful stuff and somehow keep getting work. So if Jared wasn't bad enough, let's talk about Kevin Spacey. Because this guy has literally a masterclass on how far Hollywood will go to protect one of their own until they can't anymore. So back in 2017, actor Anthony Rapp, you might know him from Rent, accused Spacey of trying to seduce him when he was just 14 years old. 14. Spacey claimed that he didn't remember any of it, and instead of denying it, he just gave this weird, sincere apology and came out as gay in the same statement, which everyone immediately called out as disgusting attempt to just deflect from the actual accusation. And then that was just the start, because many more people came forward, including Richard Dreyfuss' son, who said that Spacey had groped him, plus multiple House of Cards crew members and actors. So in total, there were over 30 allegations dating all the way back to the 80s. Now, legally, most of these cases either got dropped or didn't go to trial, but the damage was already done. Netflix fired him from House of Cards, deleted every scene he had already shot for All the Money in the World, and they literally reshot the entire thing with Christopher Plummer, and his Gore Vidal biopic was cancelled. His agency dropped him, his publicist quit. He was basically Hollywood's '1 do not touch for a few years. And yet, here we are again. He's quietly making a comeback, starring in small indie films like Peter 5'8" and The Contract. Because apparently, even if you get hit with 30+ allegations and cost Netflix $31 million in damages for violating their harassment policy, you can still find work in Hollywood. Then we have James Franco, who honestly might be the definition of fake deep guy energy. So back in 2014, he literally DM'd a 17-year-old girl on Instagram asking what hotel she was staying at and if he should get a room there. And you can't literally make this stuff up because there are screenshots that went viral, and then he just went on TV and said that he used bad judgment. Like, yeah, no kidding. A few years later, in 2018, 5 women who studied under him at his acting school accused him of using his position to exploit them. 2 of them ended up suing him, and he quietly settled for a little over $2 million. The thing is that even after all of that, HBO still kept him as the star and producer of The Deuce. And it wasn't until the show ended that he really disappeared from Hollywood. Seth Rogen, who used to be his best friend and collaborator for over 20 years, publicly said that he would never work with him again. So basically, that was like the final nail in the coffin. Then in 2021, Franco finally admitted that, yeah, he did sleep with students.
Look, I'll admit, I did sleep with students. I didn't sleep with anybody in that particular class, but over the course of my teaching, I did sleep with students. And that was wrong.
And he tried to frame it as part of his sex addiction. And he said that he cheated on everyone and that Seth Rogen's rejection was hurtful. Anyway, now he's back in random small projects because apparently Hollywood loves a redemption arc, even when no one asked for one. We also have Armie Hammer, who somehow managed to turn tall, handsome Hollywood actor into real-life horror story. In 2021, a woman named Effie accused him of violently her. And that's where all of these disturbing DMs and screenshots started surfacing. He was allegedly talking about cannibalism, carving letters into women's skin, and even asking one ex if she would have a rib surgically removed so he could eat it. So I don't even know how to process that. Of course, his lawyers denied everything and said that all of his relationships were consensual. But of course, the damage was done. Armie got dropped from Shotgun Wedding with Jennifer Lopez, The Offer on Paramount Plus, and even a Broadway play. So basically, every project he was attached to ran for the hills. His last movie was Death on the Nile, and Disney tried so hard to pretend that he wasn't even in it that they literally left him off the posters. After that, he checked into rehab for sex, drugs, and alcohol issues, and the LAPD eventually closed the investigations without charges. But still, the fact that someone with that level of disturbing allegations can even talk about coming back to acting just shows how much Hollywood loves giving second chances to the wrong people. And then there's Mel Gibson, the man who somehow turned one of Hollywood's biggest scandals into a redemption arc with an Oscar involved. So back in 2006, Gibson got pulled over for a DUI and just went on a full-blown anti-Semitic rant, not just like a bad night, but like a career-ending meltdown. Then in 2010, leaked tapes came out where he was heard screaming racist slurs, using the N-word, and allegedly being violent toward his then-girlfriend, Oksana Grigorieva. And let's not forget his long history of homophobic comments even before all of that. Basically, Mel Gibson hit every checkbox of the "you should never work again" list, but instead of disappearing forever, Hollywood was like, maybe he learned his lesson. Fast forward to 2016, 10 years after the DUI, Gibson premieres Hacksaw Ridge at the Venice Film Festival, gets a 10-minute standing ovation, and ends up with 6 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Director. Like, imagine getting cancelled and coming back with an Academy Award nomination. But people didn't forget. Winona Ryder came out again, saying that he once called her an oven dodger, so a Holocaust joke. Gibson denied it, of course, but this is the same guy who literally said that he wanted a journalist's intestines on a stick. So yeah, not exactly the most credible source of denial. Despite that, studios kept hiring him. He's directed and starred in multiple films, including Fat Man, Last Looks, and his old agency dropped him years ago, but CIA, one of the biggest in the business, resigned him in 2017, because apparently talent is bigger than accountability. The wildest part is how normal this all seems now. Like, if Tom Hanks ever said something remotely close to what Gibson said, Hollywood would implode. But with Gibson, everyone just kinda shrugs, and they're like, oh, that's just Mel being Mel. It's almost like there's a special rule book for powerful men in Hollywood, the ones who bring in the money, headlines, and prestige, where bad behavior becomes a PR problem, not a career ender. So yeah, this whole forgive and forget energy only seems to apply to the right kind of people, which brings us to the complete opposite. The actors and artists who did speak up, got vulnerable, and tried to tell the truth, and ended up being pushed out instead. Brendan Fraser has had such a roller coaster career. I mean, I loved him in the Mummy, George of the Jungle, and don't even get me started on The Whale because that movie made me cry so much. He was unbelievably amazing, and honestly, seeing him finally getting that Oscar was so well deserved. But it hasn't always been this way. There was a time where Fraser basically vanished from the spotlight, and then in 2018, he opened up in GQ about what went down. Back in 2003, at a Hollywood Foreign Press Association event, the former HFPA president, Philip Berg, allegedly sexually abused him. Fraser described the incident in heartbreaking details, saying that it left him feeling miserable, depressed, and completely reclusive. He even said, "I felt like a little kid. Something had been taken away from me." And then on top of that trauma, Fraser's career withered on a vine. He got shut out from the HFPA, the Golden Globes, and a bunch of opportunities. Meanwhile, Berg just tried to brush it off as a joke in his memoir. So add to that the personal struggles, health issues, a divorce, losing his mom, and it's no wonder Fraser disappeared for a while. But here's the good part. He's back. He came roaring back with The Whale, absolutely crushing it, and then followed that up with Killers of the Flower Moon, earning praise even from Martin Scorsese himself. Fraser's story is the perfect example of Hollywood not forgiven, and yet somehow he managed to claw his way back, reminded everyone how talented he is, and get the recognition he truly deserved. So let's talk about Megan Fox now, because honestly, she's one of the clearest examples of how Hollywood can completely turn on someone, especially when a woman dares to speak up. We all remember her from Transformers. She instantly became one of the most recognizable faces in the 2000s, and not just because of how she looked, but because she had that it girl energy. Before that, she had been in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen and Holiday in the Sun, but Transformers was her big break. And then she spoke out. She called out the hypersexualization of women in the industry, and even compared director Michael Bay's behavior on set to working for Hitler, which maybe wasn't the best phrasing, but the message behind it was clear. She was calling out mistreatment in an industry that didn't want to hear it. And what happened next? She got blacklisted. The media painted her as difficult, the industry dropped her, and everyone seemed to forget she was actually talented. When Jennifer's Body came out, it flopped, not because it was bad, because this film was brilliant but just way ahead of its time, but because no one wanted to take her seriously anymore. Years later, Megan said that speaking out before the Me Too movement basically ruined her career. She told InStyle that she was brought out and stoned and murdered by the public. But after Me Too, people suddenly went, wait a second, maybe we treated her horribly. And that's when the industry started welcoming her back. She since said it feels like a phoenix, resurrected from the ashes. And honestly, that's such a perfect way to describe it. She rebuilt her life, got divorced, started choosing projects that she wanted, and made a comeback on her own terms. Keke Palmer has been in Hollywood since she was 10, so she basically grew up in the industry. But despite all of the early success starring in her own Nickelodeon show, True Jackson VP, she's been very vocal about how she was underpaid and treated differently because she's dark-skinned. She said that it wasn't until her role in Jordan Peele's Nope in 2022 that she finally felt she was fairly compensated. So that's crazy, right? Like, imagine being in the industry for nearly 2 decades and only then feeling paid what you deserve. Palmer has also been real about how she had to take on huge responsibilities from a very young age. By age 12, she was the main financial provider for her family, which came with all of the stress and pressure that just nobody talks about. And it meant she had to put her own childhood and desires on hold. And this wasn't just about the money. She called out the way she was treated compared to her white peers on Nickelodeon, saying she was always the black girl on the network, overlooked and marginalized. Later, in her self-directed film and album Big Boss, she shared how male executives and producers would drain and invalidate her, using her womanhood as a weapon against her. She's also spoken about the sexualization of black women in Hollywood and how that contrasts with the treatment of lighter-skinned actresses. Keke Palmer's story is basically a reminder. She's been fighting an unfair system for years, dealing with racism, sexism, and trauma. And yet, she's still here, still thriving, and finally being recognized for her worth. She definitely doesn't get nearly enough credit for all she has accomplished. Anyway, so Tron, the movie Jared has been obsessively pitching for years, finally exists. And guess what? It's underwhelming. Despite being the face of the film, earning high seven figures plus a producing fee and literally reshaping parts of the story around his character, the movie opened to a $33.5 million domestic debut, way below expectations from a $200 million production. Critics were mixed too. Some said, okay, he's committed, while others pointed out that his character's motivations felt half-baked. So it's the classic Hollywood story. Big money, big star, but not necessarily big results. Still, some argue that it's not the actor's fault. Maybe just nobody asked for a reboot for this franchise in the first place. And the wild part, Jared Leto actually claims that Tron Ares exists because of him. He pitched it, nagged Disney, and got greenlit. So technically, we have this movie thanks to his persistence. And yet, honestly, would it have been better if it never existed? Because here's the thing, Hollywood keeps giving opportunities, huge opportunities, to people who have stories of bad behavior. And people who spoke up or were mistreated had to claw their way back, often against impossible odds. So it's a pattern. Talent and box office potential often outweigh accountability. Hollywood applauds the resilience of stars like Leto or Gibson, while punishing those who were vulnerable, outspoken, or just plain human. And honestly, that's the bigger story here, the system itself. Tron Ares might be a movie, but it's also a microcosm of Hollywood's priorities. Flashy returns and star power over ethics, over fairness, and over basic decency. So yeah, Jared Leto gave us Tron Ares. But maybe what we really need in Hollywood isn't another reboot, another big paycheck for a controversial actor, or another flashy sci-fi spectacle. Maybe what we need is a system that stops rewarding toxicity and actually lifts up the people who deserve it. Because at the end of the day, art is amazing, but not when it comes at the cost of morality. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!